Today we'll be talking about the 17-year periodic cicada called the Adjustable Cicada. So this year in 2021, in the month of May and June, we'll be seeing cicadas. We're going to see them primarily starting in the DC area and then spreading north and west, and we'll be able to follow their emergence and get a lot of great topwater fishing in for all sorts of species. So the cicada pattern I'm going to share with you today, I like to call the Adjustable Cicada. And the reason being, cicadas have different amounts of orange on the bellies. And we're going to make it where we can change that amount by using an orange foam belly and then using a little art to make the belly have stripes. Now, if you're in an area that has lots of orange on the belly, leave a lot of orange. If you want to have a little bit less, you make it, the magic marker, make it a little less. And there is actually one of the three cicadas we'll be seeing that has no orange on the belly. And that will be done with a magic marker. So, let me talk to you about the materials real quick. So, the hook that I'm using today is a 2461 size 4. The Ultra Thread 140 in black. We have the River Road Cutters punched out orange for the belly. That's in 2mm. In 4mm black. That's going to be the top. We're going to have the orange rubber legs, and these are a perfect match. They're kind of a burnt orange, kind of a dull orange. We actually have a ultra hair type material, synthetic, that is mixed with the Crystal Flash. The Crystal Flash is the hot orange pearl, and we're just going to mix a little bit in. And what I've actually done is prepared, I like to mix the two in longer lengths, put a little tape on the end, and what that does, it's the amount I need and in controllable amounts. And then finally, we're going to put the pink indicator on, and I like the pink. You can use yellow, orange, chartreuse, whatever works for you and your eyesight. Mine, it's the hot pink. And then, just because it's a dominant thing on the cicadas, we're going to do the pinheads as eyes. So you got to have little eyes on them. That may be more for the fishermen than the fish, but let's not take any chances. Okay, we're also going to be using a thin and a gel cyanoacrylate, also called super glues. I like a thin for certain spots, and the gel for certain spots, and you'll see as we go through the fly. Okay, so let's gear up to do the tying. Okay, we have the 2461 size 4 hook mounted in the vise now. We've got our Ultra Thread 140 black. And first thing I'm going to do is cover the hook shank all the way down to the bend. Now what that's going to do for us is going to give us plenty of glue surface, glue grip. We're going to be able to get that body adhered to the hook, and that's going to just make it a much stronger fly, so we'll catch more fish on it. Now I'm going to come back up to about the midpoint of the thread that I laid down. Now, you can do this before or after. I just do it after. Pinch your thread, poke your body on just a little ways in front of the end. Now the reason I do this is because the recipes are written hook, thread, and then other parts, and I just do this when I'm doing a tying demo like this because the recipe will be in the order that you normally see it in. Okay, now talk about these foam pieces real quick. These are the Chernobyl tapered end cutters by River Road. This is the 2mm orange, and what I'm going to do is pull it up, look at where the thread is. You notice that you need to adjust it a little bit. Now, there we go, so you can see. I'm going to do a little bit of a pinch, and we're going to do a couple of looser to tight wraps, and I'm going to put a couple of nice snug wraps on it. Now, what I want to show you is I'm pushing the body back out to maximum width. I'm going to cut right where the eye hole is, a hook hole, eye hole, and that's going to, and just a slightly behind it to right at it. And that's about the length that I want. It's going to back up a little bit when I get a tighter wrap on it. And what's going to happen is it'll be the perfect length for being able to get the tippet through the eye. So right now I'm going to add the gel right on top of the thread wraps that I did. Put just a little dab front and back. And we're going to glue the whole back end down shortly. But right now I want to get the 4mm, also River Road cutters. This is 4mm, that's 2mm. And I'm going to put it pretty even, maybe just a hair back of the bottom orange piece. I'm going to come straight over the top. I'm going to go ahead and snug that down with a couple of good wraps. Perfect. There we go. Now, if you have a little bit of your foam caught underneath, take your bodkin, go from back to front, and you will pull it out. Okay. Looks great so far. Now, the next thing we're going to do before we go forward, we're going to add some legs. Now, the legs are going to extend a little bit past the back. No big deal. We're going to trim them to size. Now, the leg is going on the black 4mm foam. Couple of reasons. Mainly is that we need to leave a little bit of room for painting of the orange with the magic marker. And if you put the leg on the orange, it goes too far in and it doesn't leave you with the angle that looks best. It's a little too tight of an angle because you've already got that orange cinched down tighter than the 4mm. There we go. Now I've got a couple of wraps, but I'm going to grab my handy dandy long whip finisher. I like working with the long popper type just because it gives me room to go back on a bigger fly like this, and I like to whip finish 3 to 4 times on something like this, even though, as you'll see shortly, it's going to get a lot of glue to make this fly more durable. Okay, now the other thing we can do right now, just to make life easier for ourselves, get rid of the front part of the leg. Give it a slight pull, not too much. Cut, save that. That's going to be our front legs. Give it a slight pull, not too much, just slight. And what happens is that the rest of the leg pulls back right nicely and gets out of the way. We'll actually be hitting that with a magic marker shortly. Now, so we're actually going to remount the thread. And why do I do that? Well, when you're pulling the thread in between the foam bodies, it doesn't always go well. So I'd rather just do a thread remount. Just takes a second. And I think that you guys might get a better fly that way, because like I said, if you go to squeeze that thread in between the body, it sometimes doesn't come out so nicely. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to more cyanoacrylate right up in that gap area. We're going to put it on top of the thread, a little under the thread, a little on the sides, and again, that's still the gel. Now, the thread is positioned where I'm going to get a proper sizing on the front wrap. The front wrap is going to define everything forward on the fly, where the legs go, where it forms the head, everything. So we want to make sure that's not too far back, not too far forward. Nice straight line over the head. There we go. And I'm going to roll it around backwards, and one of my wraps wasn't perfect. So I'm going to readjust slightly. There we go. Check the top, tighten it, and everything looks fantastic. Okay. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a cut to the top piece, and basically I don't want it to be straight and even with the front edge. I want the front edge to have an angle for mounting the eyes. So I'm going to leave it up like that, find the hook point, or the hook eye, excuse me, and go right in front of the hook eye. Great. Now that has a little bit of an angle to it, not too much, but just enough to get the eyes on and have them kind of looking forward like they're supposed to. Don't want them looking up. You can adjust that later, which we'll do. Okay, so we're going to take the extra leg pieces from the cutoff on the back. I'm going to mount them as front legs. There we go. Do the same thing on the other side. Okay, that's just about perfect. Check, make sure they're not down on the orange. Great. Now, at this point, we want to do our winging. Now, this is again the ultra hair type material, synthetic material with the crystal flash mixed in. This one's a little heavy on the crystal flash, but hey, sometimes it's good to be flashy. Now we're going to do one side then the other. I don't like to try to do some other tying methods because you want to be too bulky. I don't want too much bulk. So I'm going to give it the angle that I want it to have. There we go. And then we're going to cut the front edge nice and tight. There we go. Now I'm going to take the other, what's left, and do the second side. There we go. Now, at this point, I'm going to come back in there with the gel glue, put a little dot right on those threads and just a little bit up in that wing. Then we're going to grab our beautiful bright pink indicator and, oops, better cut this tab off first. There we go. Now, lay down the pink indicator so we can see this bug from far away. There we go. Pretty nice and straight. There we go. I'm going to pull up some thread here. Oh, getting a little long. Okay. Now I'm going to cut the indicator strip even with the front edge of the head. Looking good. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish it off. Do the full 4 for that knot. Give it a little tug. Cut the thread on the bottom. Now, what I want to do is just make sure everything is straight. Make sure the legs are where I want them. Looking great. Okay. Now the wing is a little long, so I'm going to come back and I'm going to have it about a 1/4 inch or so behind the body when I pull it back to trim it. We're just looking for the effect of the wings. You don't want them too long, get in the way of your casting. Just the impression when it hits the water of wing. Now we're going to do the eyes. So on the eyes, we're going to take a little fatter bodkin. I'm going to put indents into the foam as wide as I can because I want the eyes kind of out on the corners. There you go. Now, this is a bit of a pain because these little beads are pretty small. So these are the pin eyes, and basically I've cut the long pin part off, so we just have the eyes in like 1/8 of an inch or something very small. Okay, try that again. Okay. These are the pin eyes. I've cut the long part of the pin off, leaving just a little bit of the metal, and then the nice red round eyes that are going to be the eyes. Now, what makes this so tough is that they're round and small. However, this is a thin, light plier for small work that holds it just perfectly. Now I'm going to put the gel right on the end of the pin that's left. There we go. And then I'm going to go back to one of the holes that I've already made and try not to make a mess inserting. Just swiveled a little bit, but that's okay. It's found its home. There we go, in the hole. There we go. Let me grab a second one. On the second one, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put a little glue on the end. There we go. There we go. That looks great. They're nice and even, nice and wide. There we go. So the rest of the work we're going to do is going to be for durability. So I mentioned that we were going to glue down the back end. Doesn't look quite right yet, does it? Nope. So we're going to actually get a lot of glue up in there. We want to make sure that you get it under the hook. That'll glue it to the bottom. You want it on top of the hook. You want it on the sides of the foam. And this is the gel glue again. And this is going to complete the back end of the fly. That should be enough right there. Now, I'm going to line it up and do have a finger on one side, 2 fingers on the other. From the hook side, give it a good press, press the tail, make sure glue gets pretty evenly distributed. Take a look at both sides. I actually have a little bit glue oozing out of the hook hole, and that's good. I just removed the excess though. Awesome. Now with the glue that we put on the front portion and the back portion, and just a teeny bit more on the front, I just want to make sure this is pressed down well. So we're now going to lift up the front lip of the bottom. Make sure we get a little glue in there, and this thing will be rock solid. Awesome. I'm going to pinch that down. There we go. I'm going to cut this, just trim this just a little bit because it didn't come out perfectly even. That's good. All right. It's a darn good looking bug. Now we're going to make it a little more realistic, and the way we're going to do that is permanent markers. Now, first thing I'm going to do is come in on the sides. And we're going to do these sides all the way down to that first wrap. This is kind of the finer work. And I'm going to go in there and hit that cut off leg. Hide that. Hide that. I'm going to come just over that tie-in point towards the back. We don't want excessive orange, but we want orange. But you'll see this is going to be a much more natural looking critter when I use the magic marker to partition front to back and then get the stripes on it. There we go. We got all the fine work with a finer point. Bring out the big chisel point just for an overall coloring. There we go. Now, I'm going to go back to the fine point. They don't generally have orange too much up on their sides or on the very back. So I like to go hook point towards the rear on the belly. There we go. Now I'm going to hit the edges. See how the edge is still orange? I'm going to get rid of that edge because the orange doesn't overlap on the bugs to the edge like that. We're going to get rid of that. There we go. You can see that what I've done there. I'm going to take care of this edge. Nice. Oop. One little spot. Now it seems like it takes a little bit of time to tie this one, and it kind of does. Not too bad, I don't think. Now we're going to go with a couple. I'm going to go with just a little bit deeper black on the belly, the partitioning stripe. little deeper. There we go. Now we're going to put 2 stripes. I'm going to start it on this side. Start it on this side. I'm going to go in there and neaten them up. Oh yeah, that looks great. A little more on this one. There you go. That's it for the painting. Now all we have left to do is I'm going to go in there and I'm going to lock all those thread joints. But check out the paint job. And you get into an area that's they have less orange or no orange. Remember, it's the magic marker that fixes that. Okay, so now I'm going to bring out the thin glue, my bodkin, and I'm going to put the glue on the bodkin. That's a mistake a lot of folks make. Put the glue on the bodkin. You try to put the glue on, you often get too much, and it's hard to remove. You can actually do this even before you paint them. But I just wanted to lock those thread wraps in right there on the bottom. And you can do one on the strike indicator if you want. And I'm going to lift the wing, get a little bit in there. And then just a little bit on the strike indicator. There we go. There's only one good instruction I need to give you on how to fish these. Fishing with a splat. Make sure they hit the water nice and hard. That's the dinner bell, and that's how they locate them. I want to show one more little thing. Put a little glue under that indicator, so as you're casting it and if the wind gets it, you don't trap any of your tippet or leader under that to mess up your presentation. Yeah, there's a little tip for you. Thin glue dries faster than the gel. Gel could take a little bit of time to lock down. So I went back there and put the thin stuff back on it, and it's pretty much locked down. Okay, well there it is. Your adjustable cicada.